Hey everybody, welcome back to Salt and Cincy. My name is Andrew Maloney, your certified Cincinnati hype man and real estate agent here in Cincinnati. And on today's episode, I am super excited to have a dear friend, mentor, all-around great human being, artistic director of Ensemble Theater Cincinnati, Miss Lynn Meyers. Thanks for coming, Lynn.
Thank you, Andrew. It's always nice to see you, and we're not seeing each other in the theater.
I know, we're out of the theater, which is a shock.
This beautiful space.
I know, it's a cool space. So thanks for coming. I'm so excited.
Happy to be here.
So I know about Ensemble Theater, but for our listeners who don't know where Ensemble Theater Cincinnati is, do you want to give a little backstory about where it is, how it got started?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. I didn't start it. I came in later, but it was started with the idea of a professional equity theater in Cincinnati dedicated to hiring local professionals.
Okay.
So that's a little different. Playhouse does hire local folks, and of course it is the big Lord Theater in town.
Yeah.
So they wanted to form a theater that was complementary to that. Maybe do a little things that were a little off center for what the Playhouse did. And I grew up at the Playhouse. I spent the first 10 years of my career there. So I know there were things sometimes that we wanted to do that we couldn't. So Ensemble had this idea, this group of wonderful people, some graduates from CCM, local actors, two marvelous female philanthropists, and they put all their ideas and their money together and bought the building. And before that, they were really anxious to build an audience, so they started at Memorial Hall, which
cool.
I think a lot of people don't know. The first 2 seasons were over at Memorial Hall. And then they moved into the current building, which was a bank in its early days. It was also an Italian consulate. It was so many wonderful incantations of life. And then it became a printing company, Auto Printing, who became very famous because they printed the first fabric backstage pass. So it couldn't be transferred. So rock groups from all over the world went to Auto Printing to get these really cool patented passes.
That's cool.
And they printed them at 1127 Vine in that building. And when they moved out, the building was empty.
Okay.
So Ruth Sawyer and Murph Mahler, Mary Taft Mahler and Ruth Dennis Sawyer, those are their whole names. These 2 women went shopping for a building. And they fell in love with the idea, which became part of what Ensemble Theater is and still is today, is what if we took this beautiful historic neighborhood that was in despair and we put an arts destination smack dab at the entrance to it, and what if we literally build it and people would come? What if having a destination that people would like in the middle of a lot of nothing? Because that's what it was in OTR in those days. It was just a lot of nothing.
Right.
It was abandonment. It wasn't like the Hill District in Pittsburgh where everybody got moved out. There wasn't anybody to move.
Right.
And that stayed that way for many, many years because I didn't get here till 10 years after the theater was founded. So they combined this idea of being a catalyst for change in OTR, even though they could have bought a building down on 4th Street. There were all kinds of buildings. You're a realtor, there was plenty of property. Yeah. But they really thought, what if we're trying to make a difference by keeping people local and building a cultural community?
Yeah.
Why not do it in a part of our city that helped build the city?
Well, and I think that's so great because that kind of plays into the current mission statement when you got there. If you want to talk about the mission statement of the theater as well,
Yeah, we are dedicated to new work new to the region with a social conscience. That doesn't mean we preach to everybody.
Right.
It means that if it's on your mind and it's on the news and it's something happening that affects us, then we talk about it and we present shows about it. And it is still dedicated to giving priority. And 90% of the people we hire, over probably 90%, more than 90%, are local Cincinnati professionals.
Yeah.
So what we do is simply open the door so that people can start, build, and continue careers and use Ensemble Theater as a place where people get to know them.
Yeah.
And that the mission changed in 95 to go from just dedicated to being a catalyst for change in OTR, as if that wasn't enough, to doing new work and work new to the region, but always with an emphasis of lifting up the talent that is here in Cincinnati and letting people go forth from here and create a way to stay here. A lot of us are boomerangers that are here. People have come back because Ensemble exists.
Well, I think, too, the really cool thing about Ensemble is it's the only theater left in the city that has, interns and apprentices, and that builds the future artists to live here. And I think that's really important. And that's a great thing that Ensemble is still able to do.
Well, and that is something we need. Anybody who wants to help, help.
Please.
Because Andrew is living proof of what can happen if you are an apprentice at Ensemble Theater. Came out of NKU with your degree.
I did.
And then came to Ensemble Theater as an apprentice. And, they've been interns and now they're apprentices.
Yes.
But it's amazing. It's this program that has an astonishing success rate. 40% of the apprentices that have been there since the beginning of Ensemble Theater have stayed in this region.
It's incredible.
Now, that's not people who were just from here and stayed home. No. These are people that moved here and then never left, because what they saw was the ability to connect with other professional theaters, with other regional destinations, with film work, with commercial work. And they suddenly found an affordable place to live and work and maybe have a little yard, or maybe have a dog, or maybe get married and have a child. Who knows? But it is something so dear to me and so critical to who we are.
I
and
agree.
It's expensive. It's $150,000 a year.
Wow.
That's not a lot of money if you consider that if I hired people on a per show basis to do all the things the apprentices do, as opposed to all that they learn, it would cost me $50,000 more.
Right.
So if I'm hiring casual labor and I'm not training apprentices to do all of the support work, which is everything from running the light board to running the shows to doing run crew to understudying to being in shows to working in administrative capacities to assistant stage managing, all of those jobs are so that when they leave, they can get work.
Yeah.
And now we have 5 full-time employees that were apprentices at one time or another. So it is a program that most theaters have cut because of the expense, and we're in a time crunch. But it is paramount to ETC that we don't do that.
Right.
We feel an obligation to our community, and that's also to build the future community.
Yeah.
So it's a whopping $150,000 a year who's looking for a sponsor.
Absolutely.
But look what you would be part of.
Yeah.
And, who knows? Maybe 10 of you can get together and do $15,000 or something.
Like you said, the 40% that stay here, that are actors or tech that you see at other theaters around the city, you see on film crews, you see painting for the television, like everybody here is at some point or another connected to the theater.
Well, and you see them having podcasts, and you see them,
running the theaters.
Running theaters. Brian Isaac Phillips, who runs Cincy Shakes, came here as a directing apprentice many years ago, and it was exactly at the time, at the end of that season, Brian directed A Midsummer Night's Dream with the Apprentice Company at Ensemble because he wanted more experience in Shakespeare.
And here he is.
And then here he is. And, he's a marvelous director and a marvelous part of our community. But, there's so many. Tammy Winters, who was the associate at the No for years, came out of the apprentice program. There will be so many actors, and you'll go, what? Sarah Mackey started as an apprentice? What?
I know.
She started as an apprentice. Michael Bath started as an apprentice?
Yeah.
What? And that's sort of the exciting thing. But what's even more exciting is that, okay, we invest $150,000 in this program, and they gain experience, and they gain master classes, and they go out there. We save that on any film that comes to town. We save that by hiring a few local actors.
Yeah.
And we save that for the film company, which means they'll come back.
Yeah.
Which means more of our people will get jobs.
Yeah.
And they can shoot in Cincinnati because, as the phenomenal director Todd Haynes, who did not only Dark Waters, but he did the fabulous Academy-nominated Carol.
Yeah.
And the reason he came back to Cincinnati is he said at Con, it wasn't just for the magnificent buildings, it was the magnificent talent. Mm-hmm. So that was a long pitch about the Apprentice Company.
No, I love
But it's just something that, as I see no one else in town doing it anymore, it just makes my heart hurt because, when you come out of school, nobody is ready unless you've come out of a professional program, maybe a CM musical theater department that is literally like we're preparing you to move to New York.
Right.
Ensemble is preparing you to work.
Yeah.
And if 40% of them stay and make our community better, all the better.
Why not?
But, they're on national tours right now.
Yeah.
They're coming through the air and off, having been apprentices or getting their equity cards.
Yeah.
And it's it's been a great joy to watch people kind of bloom, right? Starting on Vine and they bloom on Vine.
It's
cool.
very much like the ensemble, the heart of the ensemble theater.
It is. I think years ago, at one point in time, Shannon Ray Lutz, who along with Tori Wiggins, runs the program, she's like, they're the glue that holds
They really are.
And they really, really are.
Yeah.
Without exception, it has been one of the greatest joys.
Yeah.
To watch somebody come in August and how much they've grown and changed and developed by the time it comes to June.
Yeah.
And they do their very own show, their very own production now.
Yes. And this is a world premiere this year they're doing.
It is a world premiere written for them by Tori Wiggins. And it's really wonderful.
Good.
Lovely play. And that'll be coming up soon. And it'll be after the Fringe closes. So all you Fringers can come on and see a world premiere after the Fringe Festival, which is awesome. Once that's finished, come on over and see it. But no, it tells you a little bit about who Ensemble is by talking about the apprentices.
It does.
Because it is a celebration of the historic neighborhood and a regeneration for generations to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, you came in 1995. Mm-hmm. I know the story, but we'll tell everybody what brought you to Ensemble Theater Cincinnati. I think it's a great story and it just shows the resilience of the theater itself.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
It was it was career suicide, which is what so many of my friends called it. Like, oh, great, you've got this great career going, so just kill it. Go to Cincinnati. Go to the worst neighborhood in the country for violent crime. Yeah, good job. People would say to me, which you will appreciate, location. It can't work. And I'm like, well, we can if we change the location to be better, right? So I came back in 95 to close the theater.
Yeah.
Wonderful people on the board, wonderful, caring, loving people. Didn't want to.
Yeah.
But they felt they had no option because the neighborhood was in critical condition. Mm-hmm. And there was a debt on the theater, which most theaters have. But that was a hard one to overcome because they couldn't get audiences.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you own a beautiful building that they had spent $3 million of their own money, Ruth and Murph, their own money, to refurbish this theater that was a bank, right?
Yeah.
And then here they were with this beautiful restored building.
Yeah.
And sometimes the actors outnumbered the audience.
Yeah.
So what happened was they felt they were at a critical juncture. Mm-hmm. And so because I had been the associate director of Cincinnati Playhouse, they invited me back. I'd done a couple shows there. I directed Streetcar Named Desire and Lips Together, Teeth Apart at ETC as just a guest director. I was living mostly in California at the time.
Okay.
So I came back and did that. They wanted me to do a basically forensic accounting and close the theater with grace.
Okay.
But that was in August of 95. And I didn't do that.
And here we are.
And it sounds negative to use the word anger to say why I stayed. But I can't really describe it any better.
Yeah.
I was so angry that there had been so much investment, not just of money, but time and people and care and the genuine desire to build a professional theater. They started as an equity theater. People don't do that.
No.
They paid up. They paid people to work there. I was just furious.
Yeah.
And a little bit, which sounds like I'm going way back, but when I was a kid, my grandpa worked at Findlay Market on the weekends. So he worked for, he worked at Good Sam Hospital in their laundry, and he worked for American Linen Supply Company. He was into that. But on the weekends, he worked at Findlay Market. Okay. And it was no problem at all to walk from Findlay Market to go downtown to, what was then Chilato's, right? And meet my grandma there or my mom, who was always working in the area. That was no problem.
Yeah.
I was 9 years old. I had a 5-year-old sister. Yeah. And we would walk, and then I come back, and the second day I'm in Cincinnati, there's a dead guy next to my car.
Yeah.
Dead man with a knife in him.
Yeah.
And I just understood the expression seeing red. Mm-hmm. I was so angry that this gorgeous community that were built by all the people who couldn't afford to work down by the river where it was cooler,
Yeah.
right? All the immigrants that came in to build our city had built this gorgeous neighborhood, and it was in just such despair.
Yeah.
And that path that I would have walked at 9 years old, I couldn't have walked as a grown woman.
Yeah.
I couldn't have possibly done. I would have passed 4 dealers. I would have passed, so when the TED guy was there, I'm like, no, this is not good.
Yeah.
And then I told the board, again, they were really good people, kind people. I said, you can't close because you have a debt and you have a building nobody wants to come to, in a neighborhood nobody wants to come.
Yeah.
But you've got a building.
Yeah.
So you'd be smarter to just try to go show to show, day to day,
Yeah.
and see what could happen.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
And it really has kind of anchored and started this revitalization of Over-the-Rhine because, I mean, talking to Micah on the corner of 12th and Vine,
yeah.
like Mike and Carol, how many people visit their shop when there's a show in? And now truly with the city dedicating Theater Row
Yes.
and Ensemble Theater as the heart of Theater Row,
Yes.
is really a testament to what the theater has been able to do and how the theater has withstand like OTR, just ebbing and flowing from the worst of the worst with the riots and protests in 2001 to now. I mean, really have just a true testament.
Well, and you have to realize the tenacity for our staff and for our board to support this. It's one thing, it's one thing for me to have a vision for what it could become.
Yeah.
And it is. And I love nothing better than going back to my friends who said location, 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 and going,
look at us now.
Location, location. I mean, it's so wonderful. From an abandoned parking lot across the street, a gravel lot, and abandoned buildings to condos and houses and stores and restaurants. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And no, Ensemble Theater didn't do it alone, but we sure helped.
Yeah.
And if you give people a destination that grew and grew and grew in terms of quality and did things that were completely outrageous that people had to come see, well, then suddenly you build that following. And I just thought it couldn't get worse than 95, but 01 it did.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking and devastating. And my longtime partner, Roger, was in LA at the time, and the backdrop for the CNN coverage was Ensemble Theater. And his friends were like, is that where Lynn went? Is that? So, yeah, he wasn't real happy then. But he's happy now.
Yeah.
Because he can show everybody how cool it is now.
And I do think, I've heard this story before too, that it is such a testament to the theater and the community aspect of being that pillar in the community that during those protests and riots, not a single window was broken at the theater.
No.
Nothing happened to the theater. And I think that really is a testament to what the theater itself has done to be a pillar in the community.
And it's cool that what started by just being something simple, which was there were all these kids after school running around OTR, and they didn't have anywhere to go because they had parents or caregivers or grandparents or whoever that were working. So we just had these huge metal front doors, right, that were bulletproof and had all these marks of bullets in them. And we unlocked them. And we spread the word from different schools in the area, hey, if kids need a place to come and hang in the lobby. So we just had the doors unlocked, and Officer Nick, who's still with us, our fabulous security guard, would be there. And we'd have juice boxes and coloring books and pages. And you know what? It was, why not?
Yeah.
From 3 to 6, nobody was using the lobby.
Right.
Shows in those days started not till 7:30 or 8.
Right.
So suddenly it became a place where these kids could hang out and they were safe. Didn't cost a dime. I mean, we bought some juice boxes.
Yeah.
It didn't cost a dime, but we were there and we were safe. So in 01, when this neighborhood, in my opinion, absolutely, positively was entitled to erupt with rage over the senseless murders, we weren't marked as being against the community. We were part of it.
Right.
But it wasn't really good to have the theater as a backdrop. Although it was press, I guess.
Yeah.
But the only thing that happened in 01, and again, through the demonstrations over the years, is our front doors did get pulled open. And people were able to run through the building in those days and go out the back door. And why? Why did they know to do that? Because they'd been in the building.
Yeah.
If you hadn't been in the building, how would you know?
That it opens up to the back.
Right.
Yeah.
But your exit lights stay on, right? Even when your building's darked out. So it's been an incredible adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that part of it is the programming.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of it is the programming that you're not going to see anywhere else.
No, and I think part of that too is, talking about the programming and the pillar in the community. I want to talk about the award-winning education department at Ensemble Theater and the Fairy Godmother program and how that also has kind of impacted the community as well.
Yeah, that is something really special.
Yeah.
First of all, our award-winning education department.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of that. It won
Yeah.
the Governor's Award, Ohio Governor's Award, the entire state of Ohio. Here's this theater at 1127 Vine Street, with 3 people in the education department. But why to do that? It's all about the heart of it.
Yeah.
And because we had a magnificent director of education several years ago, Ben Renan, who got involved because we were invited to Columbus to see a free seminar on a thing called the Hunter Heartbeat program.
Okay.
And Ensemble was one of the few theaters that showed up. And Ben came back literally on fire. We had to hose him off. He was so excited because his brother is autistic.
Yeah.
And Ben has worked with people who are challenged his whole life. And it's a way to reach children who are on the spectrum and with other different challenges and reach them to not turn them into actors, but to help them communicate in the real world. Now the program is called By Heart because we've taken Kelly Hunter's magnificent Hunter Heartbeat program. She came to Cincinnati to Ensemble Theater.
Wow.
Had her first international conference a couple years ago. And by teaching us the core of her method, we were able to take that core and develop our own method as a complement to it. And it's called By Heart. And all you need is a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So everybody in the world can be part of this program. So yes, it's been amazing, and I think one of the cool things was when I was in Leadership Cincinnati, I met this really cool guy, wonderful architect planner, just the nicest guy, and it must have been 3 years later I got a letter from him to tell me that the invitation to the Fairy Godmother program was the first time that his son, who had different abilities, let's say, had ever been invited anywhere.
Wow.
And he was 20 years old.
Wow.
And he said he and his wife sat at their kitchen table and cried to sign the permission slip. So, yeah, that makes it worthwhile. And the Fairy Godmother program.
Yeah.
We want to keep segueing?
Let's go. I mean, the Fairy Godmother
cool.
program is one of my favorite things all year.
So years ago, Jenny Hoffman was this amazing, beautiful, spectacular, talented part of Ensemble Theater, and I had the absolute privilege of directing her in A Streetcar Named Desire back in 1991, and she was effervescent. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous, a stunning Blanche. In my heart, I can see her today.
Wow.
I can see her head tilted back and the light shining on her. Anyway, magnificent human being, uncompromising, diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, passed quickly, still worked while going through chemo treatments. She was in a production at Ensemble Theater again before I got there of Edward Albee's Seascape. Okay. When she passed, 2 kids and a husband, what do you do for a 40-something-year-old woman who dies, right? So the artistic director of the theater, David White, who was the founding director of the theater, had this fabulous idea that Jenny had been the fairy godmother in one of the British pantos that they do every holiday. They used to do every holiday season. So why not just say, okay, you can donate to this fairy godmother program, and we'll give kids a few tickets who can't come to see the shows.
Yeah.
So from 12 kids the first year, there's now over 2,000 kids that see that. And it's all from people donating. Yeah. It's all from underwriting support from corporations. It's all about giving kids their first introduction to live theater. Yeah. And that's kids we teach in the schools. So I really dislike tokenism. Right. I really dislike that. So this isn't like, oh, you don't have a lot of money, so we're going to give you a free ticket. That is so offensive. Yeah. to me, the fact that we teach these kids in their schools and they're already on the know and they know some of the songs coming in and they are our guests in our home, which is our theater, and they take art projects back to the school and buses bring them. And we were very fortunate last year that we had help from ArtsWave to pay for some of those buses because buses are so expensive. But that program is now over 2,000 kids, which also includes relaxed performances for people who, you don't have to have a sensory issue.
Right.
Maybe you just after the pandemic don't like being in a crowded theater.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't like being in the dark.
Yeah.
Maybe you like that the house lights will be on. You see the same show.
Yeah.
But it's with a little bit more of a regard to make it easier on you to your senses. It's just not quite as loud. If you want to fiddle with something or you want to, eat a snack, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right. So those have become very popular with families because if you have one child who needs special treatment, but you have another child who doesn't, they get to see the same show together and share a memory.
Yeah.
So the Fairy Godmother program is, again, people are like, you can't afford it, you can't afford it, you can't afford it. And I'm like, you're right, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah. And it is, as an actor, it's one of my favorite parts of the holiday show and being a part of the holiday show, especially when you hear 182 kids yell, hello, Jenny, and inviting Jenny into the house to be a part of that experience too. The first one really does, it gives me goosebumps now talking about it. Like even this, the relaxed performances, seeing the kids, it doesn't matter what you do, what you have, whatever, everybody can relate through theater.
Yeah.
And it is such a universal language, and it's beautiful to be a part of that and to see that because it really does change lives. And this year, you had your first teacher that was a Fairy Godmother kid come back.
Oh, it just was the greatest moment ever. Oh, so a beautiful young woman comes up. She's got her third graders there, comes up to the box office. We're standing there greeting people. And she goes, hi, so-and-so. Yeah, she goes, I was a Fairy Godmother kid, and now I'm teaching Fairy Godmother kids. And everybody started crying.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody started crying because it was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool that over 20 years, 30 years, this program and this kid, this wonderful young teacher is bringing her kids to the place where she saw her first play.
Yeah.
And it was the only play she saw when she was in grade school.
Wow.
The only play, because she came to Ensemble Theater.
And she remembered it.
And she remembered it. She remembered it really, really well. And it was just, so yeah, we're in it for the long run.
Yeah.
What happens. And Deb Girdler, who's fabulous.
The amazing Deb Girdler, yes.
Broadway actress, film star, she's done it all, right? And chose to come back to Cincinnati, be with her mom, take care of her mom, and be part of our world for so long. The reason she got into theater was because she went on a school trip. She went to Euler grade school, and they went to a school trip and saw a play.
Yeah.
And she said to her teacher, you mean people get paid to do this?
Yeah.
That's how it all started for her. And she, how many other examples out there of people who built careers out of just getting a chance to see something they loved.
It changes lives.
Changes lives.
It really does.
And last season, not this past season, we did the world premiere of Fiona.
Yes.
And this year, when we did Alice in Wonderland, we had kids coming in singing Fiona songs. And it was just so great. For our composer, David Kaiser, can you imagine? It's just, oh my gosh, it was just so cool.
Yeah.
They were still singing the Fiona songs from last year.
And the notes we get back too. I mean, just seeing, we had a beautiful note this year from SCPA, and they remembered costumes to the details.
They drew them.
It was beautiful.
Yeah,
so
they did.
It really does change lives. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the year is being a part of that, because you do see it click.
You do.
And they get it, and they're smarter than people give them credit for.
Oh, so smart.
I would much rather perform for a house of 182 kids than sometimes adults.
I know. Well, they're honest too.
They are.
If we know if something's not working,
right away.
We have had new shows, and we've done those, and I'll never forget, one of them was like, this one kid went, why does this keep happening?
Snow White.
Yeah, he was Snow White. He's like, why does this keep happening? And then the playwrights were in the house, and they're like, oh, okay, I guess we got to look at that. But it was so wonderful. It was so wonderful because they're absolutely, completely honest.
Yeah.
And it's a place where you go and nobody wants to shut you up.
No.
I don't like it when the teachers hush them.
I don't either.
We're like, no, it's okay. It's okay. We like you. Go ahead and just do your thing.
I love it.
And they're a great investment in what'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of what'll come, this year, 2025, 2026 is the 40th anniversary of Ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And Ensemble just kicked off a Pillars campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about that and why the pillars are important?
I would love to.
Yeah.
The pillars, if you come to Ensemble Theater, there are 4 pillars that hold up the building.
Yeah.
And on the names of those 4 pillars are John and Ruth Sawyer and Mary Taft Murph and Ken Mahler, because those were the 2 couples that bought the building and invested all of it. And not only their money, and please hear me when I say this, these are people who unselfishly, with complete abandon, believed so in giving people the opportunity to have a place to work.
Yeah.
They supported this. And some of their descendants, still come to the theater.
Yeah.
And we have wonderful, and Ken Mahler Jr. Is a subscriber and, a patron and donates. And it's just, but these 4 people, so we put their names on those pillars.
Yeah.
Because the pillars tell you you're an ensemble.
Yeah.
Then when we did the renovations, we emulated those pillars for the infill building that we built on an abandoned lot, and those are pillars also. So the Pillars campaign is about support.
Yeah.
It's about sustenance. No secret that arts in this country are suffering.
Yeah.
No secret.
Yeah.
More to come.
Yeah.
And we have to look at producing art in a totally different way. What worked before is gone.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah.
But it worked then. 2019, we were over $1 million in ticket and earned revenue in a $3 million operation. We were killing it.
Yeah.
In a good way, right? 182 seats sold out, 90% houses filled, completed the paid off renovations in 17. And then the pandemic locked us down for 18 months.
Yeah.
And during that time, we lost 9 of our 11 major donors.
Wow.
Not their fault, passed away, something happened, things changed in their lives. Foundations and grantors changed some models. Of course they did. We're dealing with childhood hunger and housing insecurity. Of course they did.
Right.
With utter respect and love and gratitude for them doing that for our community.
Yeah.
But we're a not-for-profit.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here trying to do things I just talked about, help start careers for people in the industry, help children get an experience of being invited to somebody's house to have a good time and reflect on the morals. Because even though it's a holiday, it's a holiday show, it's not about Christmas.
Yeah.
Never a denominational show.
Yep.
And it's also usually it has some message that they take away with them. So you want to do the work. You can't do it in the same way. We had to cut from 7 shows to 5. Which means less work for everybody. And audiences are coming back.
Yeah.
So what happens to find sustainable funding? You have to have a campaign.
Yeah.
And that campaign is a very adventurous campaign. It's a $10 million campaign with 2 earmarked to start in our endowment. 40 years old and no endowment.
Wow.
It's like, 40 years old and you haven't gotten your driver's license yet. Or, not everybody has to drive, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So 40 years, $2 million will be that. $2 million is really a rainy day fund, literally, for when the roof needs repairing or when our buildings start to leak, because they're renovated and they're gorgeous, but they're also 110 years old or more.
Right.
So there's that. And then there's $2 million a year for 3 seasons to be able to bolster our ability to raise and earn more money, invest in a development staff.
Yeah.
So it's not one person doing for people's jobs. You know, invest in the advice we're getting from the Results Group, TRG. We were gifted a wonderful gift from the Fidelity Foundation to work with them for 3 years. So they're looking at dynamic pricing. They're looking at ways to include more and more people. We're hearing about our programming. So we're being fed the information, and we need the ability to have the money to enact some of it. And mostly it's about investing in people. When you think about the pillars, think about how it holds up the whole organization. But it wouldn't be here without the people that work here and the people that create the art and the communities we serve, which is all over the tri-state. And now some national and international programs that we've done because shows have left our home and gone to Australia and all these other places. But it's a hard lift. It's a hard lift. And it was hard back in, 86 when they put the theater together. It was really hard in 95 and 01. But I wasn't here in the very beginning, but what I can tell you is this is the hardest time. And people don't believe me because they're like, what do you mean? What about, the riots? And what about, when the drug dealer was on the corner and you were bribing him to leave and all this stuff? I'm like, no, because we have so much to lose. We own 40% of the block. We are the gateway to OTR. You can't miss us when you cross Central Parkway. And we're also the gateway emotionally to invest in the city that I love. I deeply love this city. I never in a million years thought I would come back here to give the bulk of my life and career here. Never dreamt it. But it was an amazing calling. So, we need help.
And there's easy ways to help. I mean, anybody, they just launched the 1986 Society. So anybody can be a donor to the theater by donating $19.86 a month. That's a meal. And I'm not saying you should starve. You should definitely eat. We want you to eat.
Eat. Don't do that. But once a month, $19.86, it reminds you of a dream that happened in 1986 that's still alive all these years later. And the fact that the mission and vision of those founders is still alive and well. And look at the prosperity that's happened. Because we have become a destination that people want to come to. It all worked out. And yes, you can go up and down the street and you can shop at Micah and you can go to Bakersfield and you can go to all these wonderful places that have, over, 1,200 people a week coming to OTR to go to ETC. And because we are at the heart and Vine Street is heart, it connects us all the way uptown. Excuse me. We've got Shakes and the No and soon to be Children's Theater and SCPA. But here's our little heartbeat of ETC. That's who parks in the lots. And FC is awesome. I know you're a big FC fan.
I'm a huge FC fan.
And I like FC and everything's great. So imagine like before or after an FC game, people parking and walking OTR. And, they could go really quickly and go by Music Hall, but they come across the park and here we are. And, it's opening doors for more. I mean, it's like I always think about home teams. Even if I don't go to a lot of sporting events, it's mostly because I'm always at work. But they're my team. So I want people to think about ETC as our home team.
100%.
They're our home team.
And I do think too, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think the economic impact of the arts here in the city is almost equal to or greater than the sports impact here in Cincinnati.
It is greater, I can tell you. Because we had a wonderful session just a couple, it was a year ago in the winter time. And we announced the statistics, and it is staggering what the arts in this town do. Love sports, but your home team, baby. Sometimes people from high schools and colleges here end up on these teams. But you can always root for the home team at a place like ETC. And yes, when you look at the impact of Playhouse and the Opera and Shakes and the No and all of these other organizations, when you look at the economic impact, not to mention, and I do have to mention it because it is such a source of joy, the Film Cincinnati I mean, the amount of work that Kristen Schlottman does is staggering, and she's an amazing for our city.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is she's got the support here because she can say to somebody, look them in the eye and go, oh, yeah, you can cast that here. Oh, yes, we have those buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have the caterers. We have the service. We have the carpenters. We have the people. Because there's been this core community of artists that have been built by the arts community.
Yeah.
And, 20 years ago, probably wasn't near as strong as it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And, it's getting stronger every day.
Yeah, and I think, too, the cool thing, looking back at the past 40 years at Ensemble, there's a multitude of stories and a multitude of people that have also invested their time. Looking recently at Theresa Rebeck, who, Pulitzer Prize finalist, Cincinnati native, handpicked you and Ensemble to be the regional premiere of her show, I Need That, which is huge.
It was such an honor.
Yeah.
It was such an honor to have her with us, to have her in the building. Her parents, by the way, before they were unable to attend, were subscribers.
Yeah.
For years, they saw the shows at ETC. Theresa went to high school here, grew up here. What an absolutely unqualified, unquestionable, no downside, absolute joy.
Yeah.
And what a good production.
It was
and what
incredible.
an amazing good director. I mean, what a great playwright. I look at so many young women and they go to her plays first for the women's roles.
Yeah.
Because she is a pioneer for women, not only in what she writes, but in the way she's had to deal with an industry that is not always kind to women.
Yeah.
And she has done it in gigantic fashion.
Yeah. From
the shows that she's created to the Broadway plays that she's created. I mean, this is an amazing woman.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled. We had a sold out run.
And she's not the only playwright. Some incredibly well-known playwrights have been here.
Well, Stephen Dietz is our most produced playwright,
Yes.
and Stephen is one of the most produced playwrights in the country, but he's really close to Ensemble's heart.
Yeah.
So close that we reopened in 2017 with his This Random World, because I felt it was only right to do that. I can tell you with great joy that Warren Light, who's Tony winner and Pulitzer finalist and former executive producer of, SVU, Law and Order, we were the very first theater in the country to do Sideman while it was still running on Broadway.
Yeah.
A theater on Vine Street that he'd never been to. Mm-hmm. And he gave us the rights because we asked. And then we proceeded to do 2 more of his shows.
Wow.
It's been a great ride. It's also been really cool to birth new playwrights.
Yeah.
Isaiah McCall-Reeves, started writing plays when he was 11 and started sending them to me then. And, we did the premiere of his I Shall Not Be Moved, which is Betty Rosemont's story, who's his grandmother, who's living and well here in Cincinnati, a freedom writer.
You can take a drink of water. Because Isaiah, a local kid, made this beautiful piece of theater about his grandmother, and that went in rep with another one-person show, and it was just a really beautiful piece and a really great segue to complement each other.
Right. And luckily, we had the ability to do Kathy White Wilson's Negro Tour Guide.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was such a fan of Kathy's. I had such great respect for her. She was maybe the most honest person I've ever met. And wanted to do it, and she kept driving by the theater telling me to do it. So we had this great convergence, and unfortunately, I was so desperate to do it because Betty was alive and well, and I wanted her to get her flowers, right?
Yeah.
And then shortly after we did Negro Tour Guide, Kathy passed away.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the other thing for anybody listening to this or looking at this. The time is now.
Yeah.
Theaters like Ensemble are going away. Mm-hmm. And they're not going away because we overspend or overproduce or overhire. We're very short-staffed. We paid for our renovation. Mm-hmm. We didn't go in debt.
Yeah.
We don't have a bunch of loans on it. It is ours. Mm-hmm. So like I said, it's a hard time now because of what we have to lose.
Well, and stories have to be told.
Yeah.
I think there's some really important stories that need to be told that aren't getting told right now. And whether or not people are scared to tell them or they just don't want to, Ensemble's not afraid of that. And and I love that.
And I think it's important to realize that not every story that needs to be told is a sad one.
Right.
We started this season with a play called The Garbologists, which was about two people who were just that. They were garbage collectors, but the friendship that developed, the loss that they both endured, I'll never look at a garbage truck the same way.
No, me neither.
And we could dedicate it to Angel Flores, who died shot senselessly doing his job for Rumpke, right?
Yeah.
Or, the show we're in rehearsal for now.
Yeah.
Jaja's African hair braiding.
So let's talk about Jaja's really quick.
Sure.
A little plug for Jaja's. Get your tickets
Gotta put
because it's
it out
going to
there.
sell out.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Recently came off last year's Tony-nominated play.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell a little bit about the play and how it's going so far?
This amazing play is about as close to breathing everything that real life has to offer on stage. When are you ever going to get to spend time in Harlem in an African hair braiding place? When are you ever going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, you get to do it in Cincinnati at Ensemble Theater. It is so beautiful. 9 stories weave together. They weave the hair on stage. People are having to learn this. There's a variety of people from different places. This is an American place. It's a handed down generation to generation place in Harlem. And it is so honest and beautiful and charming. You don't have to know anything about African hair braiding to enjoy this show. It's also really laugh out loud funny.
Good.
There are some really heart-touching moments in it. But, if you laughed a million years ago at Steel Magnolias, it's time to see what's happening in these places today.
Yeah.
You're not in somebody's garage, but in a shop where people's lives and hair and all of this unfolds. It's just marvelous. And I think the coolest thing, well, there's so many cool things, but we have 5 people who have been with us quite a while working on our stages, and 5 people that it's their first show with Ensemble, because you got to keep growing it, right? That's really exciting. And we have a marvelous design team. Tiara just graduated from CCM, and she's our wig and costume designer. We have Tori Wiggins directing it. We have Justin Ellington sound design from the Broadway production.
Oh, cool.
Which is going to be great. And the set's being built and painted. It's really great colors. There's nothing sleepy about this show. It will get you and keep you in your seats and going and going and going and going for the whole 90 minutes that it runs. It's bright. And it's exactly of the moment.
I love that. And June 4th it opens?
June 4th runs the whole month of June.
All right, get
your
tickets.
I hope you get your tickets fast.
It's going to sell out.
It is, and it's one of the few theaters in the country that got the rights to do it.
Wow.
Again, we love doing these things that are brand new and fresh.
Yeah.
And this is about as brand new and fresh as it could possibly be. It's been so exciting. I've really loved the work of this playwright, and it's great to see it. If you saw African Mean Girls up at the Playhouse, same playwright.
Okay.
It's a really wonderful show, and we've been waiting all year to do it. So
it's a good
cap.
Really
cool. It's a great cap. We had a couple wonderful small shows, 3 characters, 2 characters, and now there's like 15 people in the room all the time.
It's a good summer show too.
It's a great
you just want to go
show.
laugh, enjoy, go get a drink at the bar,
and
have fun down and Over the Rhine.
And you will hear stories you never expect. It's just a good, it's a good way to start off or have the middle of your summer evening.
Yeah.
Because this is a neighborhood that every fiber of my being loves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
And the good news is that, 40 years later, Ensemble Theater is not the only thing.
Yeah. It's
because for a very long time it was.
Yeah.
For a very long time, Ensemble was alone.
Yeah.
On a block that people didn't have much hope for.
Yeah.
And a one-way street at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought one of the coolest things was when they made it a 2-way street, which kind of to me said, we've got things to share as well as things to see.
Yeah.
So you don't have to just pass through us.
Right.
You're going to want to come back.
Well, Lynn, I just want to thank you so much for this. This was incredible.
I hope I did what you
wanted.
wanted.
No, this was great. I love it. I'm so glad. And if you guys want to get involved in Ensemble Theater, again, check out their website for the 1986 Society. If you're a young professional, there's young professional opportunities to go see, subscriptions, no economic barrier to get into the theater.
No.
If you want to see a show, reach out to the box office, look online. we'll get you into the theater. Lynn will get you in. And check out Cincy's best kept secret that we're trying to make public and let you all come see it. It's really one of the most special places here in OTR and here in Cincinnati. And we'll get you there one way or another. But yeah, make sure to go to their website, Ensemble Theater Cincinnati, to check out stuff about Jajas and information soon about the upcoming season.
Brand new season.
I know, soon to be announced. So stay tuned, guys. Lynn, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you all for tuning in to Salt and Cincy. We'll see you next episode.